My girlfriend and I had heard about the Winston Hotel, an old Victorian home that was turned into a hotel. Most people you mentioned it to would say it was haunted. We thought it would be exciting to stay in a haunted hotel for a few nights, but had no idea how it would affect me for the rest of my life. When we checked and I asked if the hotel was indeed haunted, the clerk said yes and told us that it was owned by an eccentric millionaire who purchased the house after the death of its previous owners. She told us that the owner was there and he loved sharing the old stories of the hotel. She took us to the parlor where the owner was sitting and reading a book. She introduced us to him and he began sharing stories of a man who lived there in the 1800s, whose presence is still felt in a few corners of the house. We also talked about the ghosts that are rumored to haunt it, a woman who strangled her children during a fit of madness and then hung herself from the rafters. After being shown to our room, we promptly got ready for bed and snuggled under the covers together. It was already after midnight and it had been a long day. I fell asleep right away. I was startled out of sleep by a woman's scream from outside and it felt like I was in the middle of a movie. I bolted out of bed and ran to the window, quickly pulling back the curtains. "What is it?" Jenna asked. "It was just a dream. I thought someone screamed," I replied, trying to calm my nerves. "I didn't hear anything. Come get back in bed." I crossed the room and got back in bed and pulled the covers up under my chin. I could tell Jenna had already fallen back to sleep, but I couldn't. I could still hear that woman's scream in my mind. I started thinking about the stories the owner had told us earlier. Then I saw it, an apparition of a woman with long blonde hair, hanging from the rafter by her neck, with a long red scarf. The stories were true. The apparition was there and we were not alone in that room of the old house that night. I shook her. "Jenna, look," and pointed towards the window where the ghost hung swaying back and forth. Jenna said, "What?" Then Jenna screamed and the ghost disappeared. "Okay, you saw it too. So it wasn't just a dream. Maybe this wasn't a good idea," she said. I said, "It was scary as hell, but the ghost didn't try to do anything to us. It was just hanging there and then disappeared when you screamed." So we both just laid there and stared at the spot where the ghost had been. Nothing more happened, no ghosts, no screams, and we both eventually fell back to sleep. I woke up to dim, morning light coming in through the window. I yawned and turned toward Jenna, but she wasn't there. I thought she must be in the bathroom. I called out. I finally fell asleep and slept good the rest of the night. "How about you?" but got no response. I got up and walked toward the bathroom. "Jenna," I called out, but there was no answer. I walked into the bathroom to find it empty. "Jenna," I called out, but there was still no response. I walked back into the room and the old phone on the nightstand started ringing. I picked it up and the same woman's scream came from it. I slammed it down and ran out of the room and down the stairs. I went to the check-in counter and asked the clerk, the same one from the day before. "There was a ghost in our room last night. And screaming." "And Jenna, did you see Jenna?" "She isn't in our room." "Oh, so she visited you last night," the clerk said. "Jenna? Who is Jenna?" "My girlfriend Jenna. We checked in together and stayed here together last night," I replied. "I'm sorry," she said. "You were alone when you checked in yesterday. There was no one else with you. But I remember Jenna and me coming into the house and visiting with the owner, and us going to bed together, and then us both seeing the ghost." I went back up the stairs and into our room. "Jenna," I called as I went in, but no response. I looked at the bed and noticed that the covers on the side where I slept were tossed back, but the other side was still tucked in and undisturbed. I looked around the room but seeing none of Jenna's things, no bag, no clothes. I thought, how is this possible? Then I realized that I couldn't remember anything of Jenna before walking into the hotel the day before. Jenna, with her long blonde hair and the red scarf. Oh my gosh, no, it can't be. I grabbed my things and ran out of that place. It's been 10 years since that night, and as hard as I try, I cannot forget what happened, and I still occasionally catch a glimpse of a girl with long blonde hair wearing a red scarf.